Hello, sorry about the delay. I just was very unorganised for some reason and completely forgot we were starting at 9. But anyway, so hi, um, there I am on my laptop. So, as per usual, message away your thoughts on the episode, and in the corner, which I think is that corner, the right hand one, we've got our usual poll questions to answer. So we've got the usual how would you rate the episode? And then I think I've got one comparing all the historicals of series 11. I forget what the other two are, so I'm going to quickly check myself. And actually, I might as well vote in the polls myself at this point. So, how would you rate the Witchfinders? I'll get into this a bit more in a second, but to be honest, I don't really know where I stand with the episode at the moment. I like it, but at the same time, I found it boring in places, I think. It's definitely an episode that I need to rewatch before finalising my views, but for the past 2 weeks, coming out of Doctor Who, I've known definitively that I've enjoyed an episode. Whereas with this one, like I said, I liked it, but there was just something missing. I always struggle to determine what I'm missing, what I feel is missing from episodes or Jodie's Doctor, because I've mentioned it with her before. But no, whatever it is, there's just something about this episode that doesn't sit right with me at the moment. So, I think, if I'm to be honest, I may, at this moment in time, at least, obviously it may change on my second viewing, but right now, I think I'm going to have to say that it was just an okay episode because, yeah, there's just this thing that I'm struggling to pinpoint that makes me uncertain as to how much I actually liked the episode. The second poll question is which Series 11 historical story is the best? Uh, Without question, that is still Rosa for me. As I say every week, it's one of a few episodes to make me cry, which is a really good sign for how much an episode affects me. Um, and I honestly, even now, I still don't think there's anything wrong with that episode. Even the villain, Krasko, um, I'm quite glad that the episode wasn't all about him. I'm glad that he was just a side character and we could sort of fill in the gaps with his backstory and why he wanted to stop Rosa Parks. The third poll question is which non-Chibnall story is your favourite? So just to clarify, because I know last week I had some criticism for wording the question in that way. When I say non-Chibnall, I mean an episode that's not solely written by him. So that's why Rosa is allowed to be mentioned, because it was a co-written script between him and Mallory Blackman. So that's allowed. Um, but yeah, so which non-Chibnall story is my favourite? I'm going to have to be boring and say Rosa again for all the reasons I've literally just mentioned. I just think it's a really good story and easily my standout episode of Series 11 so far. Which Series 8 episode is your favourite? And that is the last question on the polls. So it's between Father's Day, Let's Kill Hitler, Cold War, Mummy on the Orient Express, and tonight's episode, The Witchfinders. This one's quite easy to answer as well, actually. Of those episodes that are listed, the only ones that stand out for me are Father's Day and Mummy on the Orient Express. Let's Kill Hitler, I think, is a dreadful episode. Cold War is okay, but dare I say it's quite forgettable. And then I've already delved into the fact that I don't really know where I stand with tonight's episode. But yeah, between Father's Day and Mummy on the Orient Express, I think it has to be Father's Day. So that's my votes. If you haven't already done so, please vote yourself. All the poll questions should be up there. Keep messaging away your thoughts on the episode. And I will quickly hide the chat and do a quick ramble as to my immediate thoughts of the Witchfinders. Again, this is a live discussion where I just haven't had the time to do a list of good things and bad things. So everything is literally going to be off the top of my head or anything that you guys remind me of. Yeah, so I've already mentioned I did like the episode. I didn't think it was a bad episode, not by any stretch. But I just also felt like it was boring. And of the historicals we've had in Series 11, I think this is my least favourite. Well, no, I know it's my least favourite at the moment. Because I loved... Well, I don't know if I loved Demons of the Punjab. I really liked it. But I definitely know I loved Rosa. But Demons of the Punjab, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so... In summary, liked the episode but thought it was boring. Really liked the Doctor in this episode. It was nice that we got another episode where she actually is more than just excitable and childlike. It was nice that she got angry again. I think it's always interesting to see the darker side of the Doctor. So that was welcome. I'm glad the Doctor was accused of being a witch. If any of you guys watched last week's live discussion, I predicted that the episode would go down that route. And actually, I think I also said the companions would have to save her, which technically they did. But this is something I want to elaborate on, actually. Even though I liked how, at the midpoint of the episode, the Doctor is put on trial for being a witch, what I didn't like about it was how really the Doctor got herself out of the situation, because obviously she goes underwater and then uses techniques learnt from Houdini to get out of the chains and then swim away. I didn't like that aspect. I think I would have much rather have had someone like Graham or Ryan dive into the water just like the Doctor did at the start of the episode, and I would have liked them to have made more of an effort to save her. Whereas what we actually got in the episode was them just pleading with King James to have the thing rise up out of the water. And yeah, I wasn't a fan of that, to be honest. And, well, no, it wasn't so much that bit. It was more the fact that the Doctor gets herself out of it and then makes a joke about, oh, I learnt this technique from Houdini. Yeah, that didn't sit very well with me, to be honest. So that was disappointing. On a more positive note, though, I really loved the villains this week. Sadly, I've forgotten their name already, so please do remind me of what their name is. I know it begins with M, I know that much. But yeah, I loved their first appearance when they're reanimating all the dead bodies and they've got the black eyes and the sort of muddy look to them. I thought they were scary and very chilling. And I bet if I was 9 or 10 years old when I saw this episode, it would have really scared me. Because even now, at the age of 21, I was creeped out by it. So I can only imagine how much worse it would have been if I was younger. But yeah, so I love the design of them. I must admit, I don't really understand what their plan was. Well, I know they wanted to take over the king, and I think they wanted to take over everyone's bodies. But what I mean is, I don't understand how they got to Earth. I know they were in some prison that was under the ground and the tree was meant to be the barricade or something like that. But I missed a lot of the explanation because family were talking over it. And also I found the aliens were quite mumbly in a way. or at least I just couldn't understand them like the other characters. Yeah, so I don't really follow what their plan was, but the design of them was really good and they were very creepy. What else can I say? The companions were good. Um, I suppose they did take a bit of a backseat again this week, but that's not always a bad thing. They did do a lot last week, so that was something. Um, the guest performances were okay. I don't know what to make of Alan Cumming, who played King James. Like, people have said on Twitter that he was quite pantomimey, and some people love that, some people not so much. I don't really know where I stand with that at the moment. I think I'm probably more leaning towards the I don't like pantomime villains or characters. Um, yeah, just because it takes me out of the episode, I think. I want to feel like the Doctor and everyone is encountering real people, not caricatures. So I think it didn't grate on me, really. Like, it wasn't that big of an issue, but looking back, I do think whenever King James was on screen, I didn't quite believe it was him, which is not ideal when you've got a historical episode featuring famous historical figures. But yeah, so I've been nattering away for 11 minutes now, so I might as well open up everything to the chat now. And I think I've more or less summarised my views of the episode. If you have joined recently, poll questions up there as per usual, so please do vote away. But yeah, it's just weird. Every now and then we get a Doctor Who episode where I have little to say about it. I struggle to find the words to describe it after. I don't know why. Um, Probably because I find them so dull that I have not much to say about them. But there we go. But as I keep saying, I did enjoy the episode, and it wasn't like really boring. Not by any stretch. I just mean every now and then I did find myself dipping out of the story and not being as engrossed. So the first message is from Jack Parry. He thought it was an alright episode, but too much social commentary on sexism. Personally, I thought it was fine. In fact, I think it was necessary for this episode because, well, let's face it, those were very sexist times. You have the women being seen as a lesser position than men and also being accused of being witches. So it's not easy being female at those times, as the Doctor encountered herself. But no, I don't think it was done too much, personally. It wasn't the main focus of the episode, in my view. Um, yeah, it was more about the witch trials themselves, really. Yeah, so I thought it was fine. Andrew Dexter. The episode was filmed at, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name, some Welsh name, Manor. Google Doctor Who, name of the place, Manor, location photos. Thank you for that. I will certainly do that after this stream. TM Martin, hello Dr. Blue. Do you think this episode, The Witchfinders, was leaked on purpose 4 days early on Amazon Prime? And care to speculate as to whether you think it was payback for Kablam? Yes, so this is a very interesting point. For those of you that aren't aware, this episode was actually leaked. I think TM Martin specified 4 days early, yeah. So this episode was released for, I think, US viewers 4 days before today. And God knows how many people got to see the episode early, but it was a lot, at least. And basically, it was a mistake. The reason I say mistake like that is there is some speculation that Amazon did it deliberately because some could argue last week's episode, Kablam, was taking a mickey out of Amazon and other delivery sites. So yeah, it's difficult to tell if this was done deliberately or if it was just a very unfortunate coincidental issue. But I personally think it was done deliberately. I've got no evidence for this. It's all just speculation. Um, but it does seem too much of a coincidence that we have just had an episode that is basically like a futuristic Amazon, and then less than a week later, oh look, Amazon has accidentally released the next episode 4 days early. So I do think there were a couple of employees of Amazon that may have been offended by the episode and then decided to leak the episode early. Tia Martin, did Witchfinders cast a good spell over the fandom this week? I think it did. I did do my usual thing and have a quick look over on Twitter before beginning this live stream. And I think the majority of comments and messages I saw, tweets even, said it was a good episode. And I think I'm in the minority, really. Well, as I keep saying, I liked the episode, but I think I liked it a lot less than what a lot of people were saying. A lot of people loved it, and I think a few people said it was their favourite episode of Series 11 so far. Again, vote in the polls. Let me know particularly how you would rate the episode, because I'd love to know. Dash Maniac, is it just me who felt that the Maroks, oh okay, that's probably their name, looked like the Wood Woman from Knock Knock crossed with the Shadow King? That is a very good observation. I did not notice that myself. In hindsight, I did, as soon as we saw the Queen one that had taken over, God, I've completely forgotten her name now, but the woman who was running the witch trials, as soon as we saw her transform into the Maroks or whatever their name is, I did feel like it was familiar, but I couldn't pinpoint what creatures it looked like, and you've just done it perfectly, Dash Maniac, so thank you for that. But yeah, now that you mention it, I do agree. They do very much look like a cross between Eliza from Knock Knock and the Shadowkin. Thunder Gaming, hi, hello. BJL, didn't like the episode. Unlike Eden, hello. It's been a while since I've been at a live stream. Been at uni, so I've just binge watched all the episodes. Well, not to worry, you don't have to watch these live. Well, you don't have to watch them at all, really. I'm just grateful to get any viewers. But nice to see you again. And interesting to hear that you're at uni. In case you didn't know, I've just graduated from uni a couple of months ago, so I can relate to how busy you must be. Yeah, I hardly ever had time for TV when I was in uni, so I completely understand that you had to binge watch it. Jack Parry thought the ending wasn't great. Killed them way too easy. Yeah, so the ending. I think that's probably an issue I have with the episode as well. I felt like it was very slow throughout most of the episode, and you've got all this character work, and then in the final 10 minutes you suddenly have the leader of the witch trials turning into the alien, the exposition for why the aliens are there and what they want, King James being kidnapped, and then the climax at the tree where I don't even know what happened. It happened that bloody fast. I know that they sealed up the tree again, but honest to God, I've forgotten already how they did it, which is not a good sign. But yeah, and then I felt like the final scene of the episode, that went by very quickly as well. I think everyone just literally says goodbye to each other, and then King James is like, oh, what's that magic, when the TARDIS disappears. And then the episode ends, and I just thought, I mean, fair play, you don't have to have every episode ending on an emotional note like we have had with Rosa and Demons of the Punjab. But I don't know, I just felt like it was weird. Yeah. TM Martin, Dr. Blue, how do you rate Witchfinders compared to the Shakespeare Code? Right now, I would say that I prefer the Shakespeare Code. I felt like it was more interesting meeting Shakespeare than King James I. I felt like the villains were better because they were witches. They actually were witches in that episode. I thought it was a very funny episode as well. I love the Doctor and Martha as a Doctor companion duo, so I always enjoy returning to Series 3 episodes. But yeah, I am biased in that because obviously I've seen the Shakespeare Code countless times, whereas the Witchfinders I've only seen once so far. But what I will give tonight's episode credit for is it probably was scarier than the Shakespeare Code. Even though the Shakespeare Code did have scary elements, as I mentioned earlier, I found the design of the Marrocks. I still have forgotten their name. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I found the design of them to be basically terrifying for kids, I think. Dash Maniac prefers the Witchfinders. That's fair enough. Jack Parry, why was King James so camp? Nothing against that lifestyle, but just confused. Yeah, so it's sort of tying into my criticisms of King James. It was very campy, pantomime-y, but some people like that. Some people enjoy Doctor Who episodes where you have characters like that. Elliot Bray thought the episode was brilliant, apart from the Mud Woman. I thought it would have been better if she kept her human skin and changed her voice, maybe. Now, when you say Mud Woman, do you mean the Gran, or do you mean the leader of the witch trials who turned into the mud creatures? I'm assuming the latter. Yeah, I'm assuming the latter because I suppose out of the two, because they were different designs in a way, you have got the reanimated dead bodies that have got the black contacts in and look mostly human, and then you've got this, as you call, Mud Woman, which is basically a cross between the Shadowkin and Eliza from Knock Knock. Yeah, so what was your question again? I've completely forgot. You didn't like the Mud Woman. It would have been better if she kept her human skin and changed her voice. Even though I found the design a bit weird, I don't think it would have worked if she kept her human skin with her voice changing. Because I think, again, I'm going to have to watch the episode again to really understand the plot. But I think the creature inside her was the Queen, and they were trying to free the King and put him in King James. So to really hammer down that fact, they had to make her look different. But I do think they could have maybe improved the design a bit. Dash Maniac, since episode 6, series 11 has been on an incline. Completely agree, yes. And I was very optimistic that this would be the case because I knew in this latter half of the series, only one episode is written by Chris Chibnall. And so it would be refreshing to have 4 different writers. Yeah, 4. Couldn't do the maths then. It would be good to have 4 different writers do their own interpretations of Doctor Who, and it's 4 episodes in a row because obviously it's episode 6, 7, 8, and then 9. So yeah, I did have high hopes for this half of the series, and touch wood, it's going well so far. Episode 6, 7, and 8 have all been good episodes, even if I have said this week's episode is not the best. It still beats the Suranga Conundrum. It probably beats Arachnids in the UK as well. And I think maybe I'd put it on par with the Ghost Monument. So it is in like the upper end of Series 11. Ewan Halcrow was happy that there was an alien villain. Yep, me too. God, before this episode, when was the last time we had a decent alien villain? We can't count the Pating, really, because that was just cute looking. So really, it's episode 2, I think. Unless I'm missing one. We had the Thajarians in episode 6, but they weren't evil. So yeah, they don't count. So yeah, it's been 6 weeks, over half the series, since we've had a decent alien villain, which is not a good sign. But at least we're finally getting them again, and we have still got 2 more episodes to hopefully have more good alien villains. Tia Martin has asked a very interesting but difficult question to answer. Dr. Blue, who is the best Doctor Who guest star of all time, in your opinion? Oh, I don't know. Literally all guest stars have vanished from my head now. I suppose one that's immediately coming to my mind, and this is probably only because there's a poster of them literally right over there, but Michael Gambon, Dumbledore, who was in A Christmas Carol, I thought he was perfect in the role of this grumpy elderly man. And I thought, yeah, he did really well playing that side of things. But then I also believed him when he softened up towards the end of the episode. So he stands out. But there have been so many guest stars over the years, and all of them have vanished from my head. So I'm afraid that's the only answer I can give right now. Wally 35. It's refreshing to actually see a Doctor Who fan who is honest about the episodes rather than gushing all over them. Oh, thank you very much. Well, I do try to be as honest as possible. And hopefully, when there is episodes that I don't like as much, I do hope that I don't slag them off as much as some people do. Because I think some people properly rip into Doctor Who and just completely destroy episodes. And that may be funny at times if there is a genuinely bad episode. But we do have to remember this is a family show and no programme is perfect. So there's always bound to be episodes that aren't as good as others. And really, at the end of the day, we just have to enjoy the episodes. That being said, though, I was not a happy bunny after episode 5, the Siranga conundrum. But I did try to be positive, I think, in my live discussion of it. But yeah, no, I try not to gush over episodes as well because it's false, really. Like, if you don't genuinely like every single episode, I think sooner or later it shows when you're constantly saying, oh, that episode was really good. And yeah, I think no one enjoys seeing that, really. Dash Maniac. Jodie said, I don't believe in Satan. Has she completely forgotten about the events of the Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit? Good point. Well, how do I answer that? Well, first of all, we have to remember that since that Series 2 story, at least 1,000 years have gone by. So there is a good chance that she has just forgotten all about that. But if we are to suppose that she has a really good memory, you could argue that the beast or the devil, whatever you're going to call it, from that story wasn't actually the devil. Because I don't think the episode ever truly confirms it. I think at the very least it says it's ancient and nearly as old as the universe, but I don't think they outright say that it is the devil. So you could argue that the Doctor never has encountered Satan. Jack Parry, apart from the sexism commentary, I thought this was Jodie's best episode. I can see why you think that, even though it's not my favourite episode of hers. She did do a very good performance in this one, so I do understand your thinking. BT Sofa Reviews. loved the episode. It felt like 70s classic Who with history, sci-fi twist, fun, action and horror. They liked the fact the Doctor's new gender was an accurate plot point, and they also loved Jodie's monologues to King James about fear. Yeah, so that monologue was actually a very good scene. I did like that one. Um, yeah, I think that was my standout scene of the episode, to be honest. Because I remember when it was on, I started to think about the writer. And I don't normally do that in an episode. I get really engrossed in the story and I sort of forget everything that's behind the scenes. Um, Now, usually it's bad if I am taken out of the story, but in this case, I was taken out briefly because I was thinking at how well written that moment was, and I was admiring the scene, if that makes sense. Um, yeah, and so I thought that was very well written. That was a very good speech. That was well acted. What else did you mention? Horror, yeah. So I said before, the creatures were quite scary. There was action there, sci-fi twist. I find it interesting that you thought it was like 70s Who. I didn't get that vibe myself, but then again, really, I haven't seen that much classic Who. One day that will change. But yeah, no, so that's another thing. Um, it was very good that the Doctor's gender actually came into this episode, and that's something I was hoping for before it aired, as I'm sure many of you guys were as well. Um, but like I mentioned earlier, the only thing that let it down really, I'm on about when the Doctor is accused of being a witch and is on trial. I was just disappointed that she got herself out of the situation, because I think my favourite Doctor Who stories are the ones where the Doctor is in genuine danger. So episodes like Midnight, you could argue Blink as well, because he's relying on Sally Sparrow to send the TARDIS back to him. God, there's loads of other stories, but again, I've just forgotten them. I've drawn a blank. Listen, he wasn't so much in danger in Listen, but he was very scared. I just really like seeing a vulnerable Doctor, and I think that's what I was hoping for from this episode. But really, besides a couple of small moments, we don't get that. And then, if we were to get that, that was then ruined by the Doctor escaping of her own accord, in my opinion. Tia Martin, fun fact, Witchfinders guest star Alan Cumming, who played King George, was once being considered to play the Eighth Doctor. Yes, I did know this actually, and that is indeed a very fun fact. Yeah, I always find it interesting to know which actors were considered to be the Doctor, or various incarnations of the Doctor. Yeah, I think he would have made a good Doctor, to be honest. Yeah, that's all I can say on the matter. Jack Parry liked the way that James referred to the Sonic as a wand. Quite ironic, as Jodie has been using it like a wand throughout the series. I didn't notice that myself. Yeah, I doubt it was a deliberate reference. But yeah, it's a fair comment to make, really. And I'm sure if people were to see a Sonic in everyday life, you would be inclined to call it a wand in that circumstance as well. Okay, no, maybe not so much, because obviously we've got so much technology around us now. I don't know, I would consider it as magic, being able to open doors and mess around with technology using this wand-like thing. But yeah, no, that's funny how it links into criticism that she's using the Sonic too much. Philip Hawkins agrees that it's his least favourite historical, but he did still find it mostly enjoyable. He wasn't bored, but the ending let him down as it reverted to a big standard alien invasion. Yeah, so that's fair enough. Yeah, I think I agree with most of that, really. Just that whole ending did seem to be rushed. It did seem to be a very cliched, oh, aliens are invading. Um, And I don't know, I think maybe I have issues with the pacing at that moment because, again, I'm really going to have to watch over the episode to make sure I'm right in claiming this. But I swear, we literally have that long scene where the Witchfinder woman, I really need to learn her name, where she turns into the creatures and then explains their plan. They then kidnap King James, and then we have a very short scene where the Doctor's like, right, we need to do this, this, and this to stop them. And then suddenly we cut to that moment, and it just felt very compact into the space of 10 minutes, or not even that. So that did great with me a bit. Dash Maniac, I'm surprised that this episode was aired at 6:30, but Demons of the Punjab was aired on 7. Yeah, well, the timing change is only down to David Attenborough's new programme, Dynasties. So that has pushed everything forward, not just Doctor Who. But yeah, it is surprising that what is arguably quite a scary episode aired quite early in the day. But we don't know how... I forget the name, but the people who give ratings to episodes according to how scary they are, like BBFC, I think they're called. I've probably just made that up, but yeah, we don't know how they work. So maybe this episode was just edging, like just towing the line between being too scary and being fine. Tia Martin, wasn't it too on the nose and maybe a bit pandering to have the 13th Doctor be accused of being a witch? Because if she were a male Doctor, it would not have happened at all. I disagree, to be honest. So you were saying, was it too on the nose? And was it pandering? No, yeah, I really don't think it was. I think I mentioned this before, but now is the perfect time to tell that type of story because, well, as the episode showed, we have the Doctor be in a situation where people aren't listening to her and they actually accuse her of being a witch. Whereas if we had a previous Doctor, like Peter Capaldi or David Tennant or Matt Smith, you know, any of them, any of the 12 male Doctors we've had, they would have taken charge of the situation immediately, and we wouldn't have had that interesting moment where the Doctor is in chains. I don't know why I felt the need to do the action then. And we certainly wouldn't have had the bit where she's drowned. Yeah, all of that would have gone. So I am glad we've got a female Doctor now so that we can have episodes like this. Because you might as well tell stories. It's difficult because you don't want to upset people because obviously, you know, there's all these criticisms at the moment that Doctor Who's got a PC agenda and they're going too far. Obviously, you don't want to make it worse by actually having a proper look how bad it is for women story. But at the same time, it is the truth. Like, it is true that, well, even now, women have it a lot more difficult than men. And I mentioned at the start of this live discussion, they certainly had it more difficult in those days of the witch trials. So yeah, it's just good to be honest and tell stories like this. And with a male Doctor's perspective, you would only have it from the companion's point of view, and I don't think it would have been as effective. But anyway, I'm waffling about that point now, so I will move on. How far behind am I today? Half an hour, lovely. BT Sofa Reviews. It's ridiculous to say this has sexist commentary. Women were treated like that and accused of being a witch. The Doctor now being a woman and being accused gives it more historical accuracy. Well, that ties in absolutely perfectly to what I literally just said. So thank you very much for that. And you've worded it better than my waffling could ever do. But yeah, no, I do feel like the episode wasn't too on the nose with it. I felt like it said enough without saying too much. Yeah, and I personally thought it was fine. Dash Maniac. Alan Cumming is Scottish, and he was playing a Scottish character, yet he put on an English accent. Maybe it's just because I'm Scottish, and Scottish accents are just normal now. I did not know this. I did not know that King James was Scottish. Yeah, I've no idea how to answer that. There must be some logic behind it, because I'm sure if given the choice, Alan Cumming would much rather use his natural accent than having to put on one for the whole episode. But I don't know. Tia Martin, Dr. Blue, did you think it distracting that Graham keeps that huge hat on even after the King's crew knew they weren't Witchfinders? And what do you make of the 13th Doctor putting it on at the end? I didn't find it distracting, to be honest. I thought it was quite funny, if anything, that he spends most of the episode wearing this big hat. And I quite like the fact that the 13th Doctor wears it, because really I like seeing any Doctor wear a hat. And it's quite nice that we've got a run of 2 episodes now where the Doctor wears a hat, because obviously last week she wore a fez, and this week it was whatever type of hat that was. And hopefully she'll wear another hat next week. Selena loves the fact that the Doctor is a woman. Loves the fact that the Doctor is a woman, meaning people might not respect her as much. Okay, I've misread that. But Selena found it funny when King James reads the psychic paper and calls it her assistant. Fair enough. The Scamp, hello, nice to see you again. Do you think Jodie did her own stunt near the beginning when she swam to try to rescue the old woman? I have no idea, to be honest. And a big reason why I have no idea is because that precise moment when she dives into the water to save her, I was not looking at the screen. I forget what I was doing now. I think I literally turned to my brother or something to tell him to get lost or something. But in that time that I was facing away from the screen, I completely missed that stunt. And by the time I turned back, the Doctor was suddenly dragging the granny out again. So I was like, oh, okay, so she jumped in to save her. I completely missed that. So I have no idea. BT Sofa Reviews. When the Doctor watches the old woman being drowned, it would have been much more powerful if she had to just watch it. Especially as Jodie's face was showing some real desperation to want to stop it. Yeah, so that's interesting. And it is a very difficult thing, at least I think, well, I'm finding it difficult to answer this, as to whether the Doctor should interfere with historical events. I think in the case of the beginning of the episode, when she ultimately does decide to try to save the granny, I was fine with it, because we have had the 2 other historicals we've had this series are both episodes where the Doctor hasn't been able to save the day. We've got Rosa, where sure, she made sure history went along the path it was meant to, but at the end of the episode they all had to stand there, or sit, in the case of everyone that was sat on the bus, sit back and watch Rosa get arrested. And Graham especially didn't want to stand by and let that happen. So yeah, that was the first episode of the series where the Doctor was effectively useless, and I think that's quite interesting to see, the Doctor having to make sure history goes the way it's meant to. And then obviously with episode 6, Demons of the Punjab, she has to let Prem die. So really, if the Witchfinders also said, oh, everyone that was accused of being a witch and killed, that's a fixed point in time, if the Doctor couldn't have saved them as well, I think it would have been too many historical stories this series where she has to stand by. So in a nutshell, I think it was refreshing that this episode she could interfere with the events. Ewan Halcrow, unrelated, but what did you study at uni? I'm in high school and am considering maths potentially. Maths is what I did. It's very difficult, so my advice, if you are thinking of doing it, is make sure you love doing maths and aren't just doing it because you're good at it. I think that was my issue. I picked it because I thought I would find it easier than other degrees. But to be honest, any degree is very difficult. Well, I like to think that anyway. But yeah, so I did maths for 3 years. Tia Martin, wouldn't it have been something if Ryan had accepted King James's offer to join him in his time period and become his protector and then exit the show, leaving only 2 companions? Yeah, so that would have been interesting if we got that. But let's face it, we knew that wasn't going to happen because, well, it's highly unlikely that a character, a main companion, will leave 2 episodes before the finale. So I never believed that he would accept King James's offer. I did, however, find it funny that he was asked to join King James and potentially have a relationship with him. Philip Hawkins links into that nicely. I don't think protection was all King James was after. Smiley face or beamy face, whatever. Yeah, so it could have been a lot more than protection that King James wanted. The Scamp, what did you think of the lack of the TARDIS? The episode started with them having landed on the planet, well, the time period I think you mean, without showing the TARDIS taking them there. To be honest, I'm fine with it. As much as I do love seeing the interior of the TARDIS, I don't get too upset if we have a whole episode without seeing it. But yeah, seeing as you mentioned the start of the episode, I actually really liked how it literally, the very first scene of the episode was them already there. I may be wrong in saying this, but I think there's hardly any episodes that have the very first scene be the Doctor and companions already in the place where the adventure's going to be. At the top of my head, I know that Turn Left begins that way. Okay, Midnight as well. Oh, there's probably quite a few episodes come to think of it. But I found it refreshing at least because there is a trend, at least before Series 11, there was a trend for the very first scene to be a pre-titles teaser where a character would get killed off, or you would begin in the TARDIS with people deciding where to go. Yeah, so I do find out of all the countless and hundreds of stories we've had, I think it is a minority that have the very first scene be the Doctor and her friends literally already be where the adventure's happening. Dash Maniac, it's confirmed that the triangular corridors are in episode 9, according to the Next Time trailer. What triangular corridors are you on about? Because I have no idea. Selena, a quick reminder that I made a theory in the comments of the last discussion video that I believe was proven in this episode. Please take a look at my theory at the earliest convenience. Thank you for reminding me about that, Selena, and sorry that I haven't read it already. I have received your comment, so thank you for sending it. But unfortunately, I've been very busy recently with... I'm not sure if you've seen the video, but I've just announced the WhoTube Awards, which is this huge project that I'm taking on, which is celebrating Doctor Who and the WhoTube community. And the trouble is, I couldn't just make the one announcement video and then leave it alone for a few weeks before doing the big award ceremony. I've actually had to break it down into 3 announcement videos because otherwise the announcement would end up being longer than the actual awards. So yeah, in a nutshell, I'm still busy now working on the next announcement video, Not to mention I've got all my things in the rest of my life to do, because as much as I'd love my life to revolve around Doctor Who, unfortunately it doesn't, and I have got to look for a job and do other things. So I will read your comment eventually, but please don't expect me to do it too soon. But I do appreciate your theory. I remember seeing it, and I think it's quite a wordy comment, if I remember correctly, and I was very impressed by how much you had to say. James Davey, King James was rumoured to have been gay in real life. Yeah, I didn't know that before I read messages on Twitter, so that took me by surprise. Oh, or at least he was bisexual. I definitely didn't know that. BT Sofa Reviews. Out of all the series 11 episodes, I'm enjoying the historicals more. The historicals this year have been great. They feel more like proper classic Who stories like the 60s and 70s, and they do wish they'd do more. Yeah, so I think I'm inclined to agree, really. I've said this countless times, but my favourite episode of the series is Rosa so far, which is obviously a historical. Demons of the Punjab is up there as well. I don't know where I would place it, but it's definitely the top 4, the top half of the series. Yeah, and this episode I enjoyed at least, and as I mentioned earlier, I enjoyed it more than the Siranga Conundrum and Arachnids in the UK. So yeah, I think, and I have said this before actually, but I do feel like Series 11 is doing historical stories the best. Because yeah, present day stories and futuristic ones are more hit and miss. Kablam was really good, but then the Siranga Conundrum wasn't, in my opinion. The Woman Who Fell to Earth was very good, but then Arachnids in the UK was average, in my opinion. So it's more of a mixed bag. Jack Parry isn't talking to me, so I'll move on from that one. Philip Hawkins, I was kind of hoping this would be a pure historical. Sadly, that wasn't the case, but I didn't mind the aliens while they were silent, creepy, zombie-like. That was very tense. When they talked, though, ... all the tension and fear went. Okay, interesting. So I'll go through that sentence by sentence, Philip. So yes, to be honest, I think I was hoping for a pure historical as well. Or at the very least, I was hoping for a pure historical before Series 11. I think at this point, I just want really good alien villains, because we've had so many human villains. Yeah, so it is disappointing that we've had all the historicals now, and none of them have been a pure historical. But then I do think, I hope I'm wrong in saying this, but I do think pure historicals won't work anymore. Not like they did in the classic series. I think we are at a point now where a lot of the fan base will only be happy if we have alien villains or a significant sci-fi element to stories. I think loads of people would be bored if we have just a pure historical. Hopefully I wouldn't be bored, and hopefully I'm wrong in saying this, but that's my theory at least. What else were you saying? You liked how the aliens were like zombies. Yeah, I'm the same. But then you didn't like it when they started talking. Okay, I can see why. Yeah, it does take something away from them, I suppose. But I personally didn't mind it. And really, I'd much rather aliens have the ability to communicate than just being silent all the time. I think that's why, in a way, I have an issue with the mutant spiders in Arachnids in the UK. I know they're not alien, but this is a point I made in that live stream, actually, for that episode. Even though I found them creepy, I felt like the fact that they weren't intelligent and couldn't communicate with anyone, it just Oh, I'm struggling to find the words to summarise it, but it just meant something was missing. All they were beasts, effectively. Which, okay, you can have good villains which just kill people and don't speak. Um, but I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. I've lost that point now. My love for Doctor Who has joined. Hello. The Scamp. Any ideas what age Graham is supposed to be? Do not knock that. I hear Bradley Walsh had to wear a grey wig to make him look older. I think at least 50s. He is a granddad, after all. Uh, you know what? I'm going to say 55, because then that makes him the same age as Doctor Who. And that's a nice little Easter egg there. Tia Martin, how far behind am I? Still half an hour. If anyone has recently joined, we've got the usual polls up there, so please do vote in them. In about 5 minutes, I'll have a quick look to see what everyone's voting for. But until then, I will keep going through your messages. Tia Martin, even though she wouldn't have recognised her, was it best the Doctor missed Queen Elizabeth I's coronation, since the last 2 times they had an encounter, the Time Lord married and left her? I hadn't thought of that, to be honest. Yeah. Isn't it best? Yeah, I think it is for the best, really. Sorry, my brain just went dead in the middle of reading your message. I don't know what happened there. My love for Doctor Who. I kind of think the last 2 episodes may be a 2-parter. Interesting. So like a secret 2-parter that Chris Chibnall has kept secret. I would like that to be the case. Or at the very least, I would like episode 9 to have a cliffhanger that leads into episode 10. However, personally, I do think we are all getting standalone episodes this series. I'm going to do that button up because I do not want to be showing off all my flesh. There we go. Hopefully I'm not sat too far away from the camera either. But no, it would be interesting if it was a 2-parter. Dashmaniac, I think I'm in the minority because A Christmas Carol is my least favourite Christmas episode. Get out. It's my favourite Christmas episode. No, don't actually leave. Yeah, no, I love A Christmas Carol. It is my favourite Christmas special. I look forward to watching it every year. And I'm really surprised that you don't like that, to be honest. Because I think it is perfect. I think it's beautiful. And you've upset me by saying that. But it's fine. It's all fine. Tia Martin, Michael Gambon was a great guest star on Doctor Who. She also liked David Bradley. Yep, he was good. Very good as the first Doctor. Even if he was written quite poorly. But let's not get into that here. BT Sofa Reviews. Likes the monsters. But it would have been interesting if this story had evil witches, good witches, women who practice witchcraft, and people being accused of being witches. Also, congrats on graduating. Thank you very much. Yeah, so seeing actual witches could have been interesting to see. But that being said, in a way, the episode would have been too similar to the Shakespeare Code if they did that. Because in that episode, the creatures literally were witches. So this episode would have to do something a lot different. So I am glad we got the zombie mud creatures instead. And as I've said before, I found them very creepy, even though I am an adult. Oh, it's weird saying that. I don't feel like an adult at all. I still feel 16, to be honest. Yeah, God. It's all downhill from here. Dashmaniac, how could she forget the Satan Pit, but remember the unicorn and the wasp? Okay, good point, yeah. I have no way of answering that. Unless we argue, because we can't control memories, we can't really control what we forget. So maybe, because she enjoyed meeting Agatha Christie so much, that memory stood out in her mind more than the quite emotional and dark adventure she had involving Satan. So maybe that's why she forgot. But like I said before, she might not have forgot. It could be the other possible reason I gave, which was that it wasn't actually the devil, because I don't think the episode outright confirmed it was. Okay, before going back to the messages, I'm going to see how the polls are going. I'm very interested to see how everyone has rated the Witchfinders. I do get the feeling that I'm in the minority of thinking it was okay. Yep, I am. So at the moment, 47% of people liked the episode, 23% loved it, 17% agreed with me and thought it was okay, 11% didn't like it, and no one hates it at the moment. So that's good that it's got a mostly positive response. Yeah, so that's really nice that people seem to like it overall. Which Series 11 historical story is the best? Rosa is still winning with 56% of the vote. Then it's tonight's episode, did not expect that, with 25% of the vote. And then close behind is Demons of the Punjab with 18%. Which, oh, this one's quite mixed. Which non-Chibnall story is your favourite? Rosa is winning for now, at least. Remember, you can vote in the polls if you haven't done so already. You can influence this poll. Yeah, so Rosa is winning with 30% of the vote. Then it's Kablam with 31%. Then it's tonight's episode, The Witchfinders, with 18%. And then it's Demons of the Punjab with 12%. So I think I almost agree with that. I think at this moment in time, for me, it goes Rosa, Kablam, Demons of the Punjab, and then the Witchfinders. So I would swap Demons of the Punjab and the Witchfinders for myself. But yeah, please do keep voting in the polls if you haven't done so already. And then the final question, blimey, overwhelming response here. 68% of you thought Father's Day is the best episode 8 out of the choices I gave. The next best thing was Mummy on the Orient Express, but even that only had 12% of the vote. And then in joint third place is Let's Kill Hitler, Cold War, and The Witchfinders with 6%. Wow. I mean, I know Father's Day is a very good episode, but I think I had kind of expected more people to vote for Mummy on the Orient Express. So yeah, as I keep mentioning, keep voting away if you haven't already. And we will keep going for about half an hour, guys, because I am getting a bit tired. And I've got the WhoTube Awards to get back to organising. Tia Martin, I think long-time Doctor Who viewers can't help but notice the difference in past series. Chibnall is a different showrunner and this series is very controversial. I get why the fandom is vocal. Yeah, I think I agree, to be honest. That's all I can say on that. I can't really elaborate on anything. Elliot Bray, the Doctor needs to tell the companions more about her, like being a Time Lord and from Gallifrey, etc. Yeah, so we have had an absence of the Doctor explaining more about the Time Lords this year, which is weird. But it's not necessary, really, because it's not as if she's going to return to Gallifrey anytime soon, because no writer seems to want to go into that for some reason. Yeah, let's not go there, because that just angers me. But what else were you saying? Yeah, being a Time Lord and from Gallifrey. Yeah, they've hardly mentioned it at all, really. God knows why. Maybe it will come up in the finale. Who knows? The Scamp. Why did King James describe the Doctor as alluring? He found her attractive. Yeah, he probably did, really. I think that's all there is to it, to be honest. Philip Hawkins thinks that the monster in the Satan pit was said to have inspired the stories of the devil and of evil demons across many civilizations, galaxy-wide. But that's not exactly the same as being the actual Satan. I don't know what happened at the end of your message there, Philip. You typing XT and statin, but I get the gist of it at least. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it inspires the devil, but isn't actually the devil. King K just watched the episode and really enjoyed it. Glad to hear it. TM Martin, despite the appearance of the rather simplistically written Morax, don't you think the real enemy in Witchfinders was human prejudice and sexism? Yes, I do. Yeah. That's all I can say. Yeah, really, that's what the episode was about for the most part. So that was the true villain. King K thought the pacing was weird, much like I did. Oh, and also doesn't know why. Again, like me, we're both struggling to pinpoint where exactly the pacing was weird. Although, having said that, I did mention earlier that I felt like the ending was rushed. So I know that much. I think maybe I just found the rest of the episode slow. Because really, not a lot went on. I can hardly remember what went on. I mean, I know we had that middle chunk of the episode where the Doctor is on trial. But then that very quickly leads into the climax. But I just seem to remember a lot of the episode is talking and being inside that manor house. The Scamp. Isn't it strange that the TARDIS crew just bump into King James? What are the chances? Yeah, good point. But you could say that about loads of episodes, to be honest. I'm trying in my head now to come up with an excuse for this episode, and none is coming to my mind. I think the episode does try to somewhat explain why King James is there. So we can let them off, really, I think. I don't know. I don't know anymore. Tia Martin, for your information, Becca Savage, that was her name, was the woman who turned into the Morax, and she was played by Siobhan Finneran from Downton Abbey, etc. Thank you for that. Becca Savage. Okay, I'll try to remember her name for future reference. King K hasn't been in a chat for a long time. Glad to be back. Glad to have you here again, King K. Please do vote in the polls if you haven't done so already. Ilaki TV, the 11th Doctor escaped the dunking. And then they go on to say Seven was an escape artist at times. Yeah, so it's not unlike the Doctor to escape. But as I mentioned earlier, I just didn't like it, really. I just wanted the Doctor to be scared for her life, really panicked, thinking, oh my god, I'm actually going to die or use up another regeneration. And then I really wanted one of the companions to save the day. I'll tell you what, I think what my ultimate issue with that scene is the Doctor saves the day so many times that the companions hardly ever get the chance to save the day themselves. So I think that's partly why I wanted them to save her, to show that it's not always the Doctor being really clever and having all these skills. It can be the companions that have an influence on the plot. I think that's what I wanted in that moment. And I think that's why I'm annoyed that the Doctor got herself out of that situation. Dashmaniac has done a best to worst for Series 11. Thank you for doing that. Do not knock your tripod, you idiot. So best to worst for Dash Maniac: Kablam, The Witchfinders, The Woman Who Fell to Earth, Rosa, Demons of the Punjab, The Suranga Conundrum, The Ghost Monument, and Arachnids in the UK. Very interesting. And that is completely different from my list, which is fascinating to see, really. Thank you for sharing that. Tia Martin: this series has made a point to ignore the 13th Doctor's gender and has written her as rather gender fluid. So now all of the sudden it's a big deal in this episode. Good point. And all I can say to that really is I felt like it was only mentioned in this episode because of the circumstances they were in. Because it was so difficult to be a woman in those days, the Doctor was affected by it, being a woman herself, because she had King James talk down to her. And so that's why she brought up the comments. I don't think she did it willy-nilly. I think she only did it, if I remember correctly, after she experienced the sexism. But I could be wrong in saying that. Dash Maniac: will you be doing a live stream after the New Year's special? I hope so. I'll be completely honest with you guys. Well, first of all, I don't know. At the very least, I will be doing these throughout the rest of the series because it's only right that I see this through to the end. But no, originally, when we all thought we'd be getting a Christmas special this year, I wasn't going to do a live discussion, primarily because I would have had to have done it on Christmas Day. Well, I wouldn't have had to have done it, but it would have been the best time to do it on Christmas Day because obviously everyone would have just seen the episode. But seeing as Christmas Day is a day to be with your family, you know, I couldn't really have done it then. And if I did it any other day, it wouldn't have been as relevant and I would have felt like everyone moved on. So yeah, basically, to cut all the waffle short, when I thought the special episode would be on Christmas Day, I wasn't going to do one. But now that I know it's New Year's Day, where chances are I'm not going to do anything. Originally, the WhoTube Awards was going to be on the 1st of January, but I changed that as soon as I found out that Doctor Who would be on that day. But yeah, no, in a nutshell, I probably will do one, but don't hold me to it. Because I may be hungover on that day, and I may be sleeping it off. It may be a complete write-off of a day. The Scamp: do you think any of the current companions will return next series? In all honesty, I have no idea. I think at the very least, they're in the New Year's Day special. So that's something, at least. We get 11 episodes with the current companions. But yeah, I have no idea if Chibnall will kill anyone off in the New Year's Day special. He could be like, oh, new year, new companions, let's kill everyone off, get a whole new group of people in. Yeah, so I've no idea whatsoever. Philip Hawkins: it makes sense for her gender to come up more in the historicals. The king, as he said, wouldn't have appointed a female Witchfinder general. Yeah, so that links into what I was saying earlier. It was contextual, and I did feel like the Doctor only made the comments because people were already being sexist to her. So it wasn't... Basically, what I'm getting at is I didn't feel like it was on the nose. I didn't feel like it was pushing an agenda, this episode. I just felt like it was being true to the times. Tia Martin: in the context of the 17th century, does King James calling Ryan his Nubian prince constitute racism? Wow, you always ask such interesting questions, Tia Martin. I nearly combined the two words together then. I'm such a weirdo. It depends. It depends on how Ryan took it, really. Uh, I didn't think it was racist when he said it. In fact, I didn't properly hear what he said. Again, probably because my family were talking at this point. Uh, but I don't know. I mean, King James certainly wasn't racist because he was fine to talk to Ryan without talking down to him. And in fact, he actually offered Ryan to come back to London with him. So I think he saw him as a friend, if anything, or as Philip suggested earlier, more than a friend. But yes, no, I don't think it's racist. The Scamp, why did the Doctor take her coat off to swim but leave her boots on? Because she's a weirdo. We'll never know. No, she probably kept her boots on because... Well, no, she would have wet feet either way, wouldn't she? I don't know. She's just weird. She took the coat off because she had the Sonic in there and lots of other stuff she probably didn't want to get wet. And she probably thought it would take too long to take the boots off. The Scamp thought Jodie looked gorgeous in tonight's episode. Yep, I think that with every episode, to be honest. God, how do I get so far behind? Sorry, guys, if you've been waiting for me to answer your messages for ages. So we've got 15 minutes left. Again, final plug for the poll. If you have recently joined and haven't voted in the Doctor Who polls, make sure you do it because I'll be doing a final rundown of the results. And also message away anything you want me to respond to. And I think at this point I'll have to start going through the messages a bit quicker. But we'll see. Hang on, let's do a quick scroll down. Oh my god, there's quite a few messages. Thank you very much, guys. I do enjoy getting lots of messages. It's just very hard to respond to them all in time. Where was I? Oh god, I've lost where I was. Here we go. Dash Maniac has just thought of a theory, but I don't have enough room in the live chat to say it. I'll try to leave it in the comments when the live stream is over. Please do, because I'd love to see it. The Scamp, did anyone see a TV aerial on top of one of the buildings in this episode? I didn't, and that's annoying you've said that, because now, when I rewatch the episode, I'm going to be looking out for that, and if I do see an aerial, that is going to be... what was it? Continuity error or plot hole? I don't know the phrase for it. The Scamp, thoughts on the hat that Graham and the Doctor wore? I thought it was funny. And I always enjoy it when the Doctor wears a hat. Philip liked that Graham kept the hat on as well for most of the episode and it wasn't commented on. Yep, I'm the same. TM Martin, do you think Chibnall's decision to hold back classic monsters like Daleks and Cybermen was really designed to remind us of them and thirst for them since they used to be taken for granted? Yeah, I do think that, to be honest. Maybe I'm just being hopeful here, but I do feel like Chibnall shares the same view as me, at least, in that we have seen a lot of these villains too much and they need to be given a rest. That button has come undone again. There we go. Tim Martin, Dr. Blue, so in the grand scheme of things, how do you think Witchfinders will hold up as being memorable or unmemorable? And where does it rate on the Doctor Who rewatch scale? Oh, God. Right, so in answer to the first part of your question, to be completely honest, I hope I prove myself wrong here, but I get the feeling I will forget this episode. I think in terms of, as you say, memorable and unmemorable, this episode, Arachnids in the UK, The Ghost Monument, they're all episodes that I think I will forget about as the years go by. They're all episodes that I'm sure I will re-watch over the years, but they're ones that I'm less likely to return to compared to episodes like The One Who Fell to Earth, Rosa, Demons of the Punjab. I'm not going to return to the Siranga Conundrum in a hurry, but I do think I will be likely to remember it at least, because it's an episode that I actively disliked, and there's not many episodes that I have that view of. So yeah, unfortunately, that will stand out for all the wrong reasons. And then the second part of your question, where does it rate on the rewatch scale? Well, really, I've already answered that. I think I will try to rewatch it at least once over the next month. I'd like to say over the next week, but I've got so many things to rewatch. I still haven't rewatched Kablam yet, and that's an episode I really liked. But I've just been so busy, and I've got so many other things to watch, so who knows when I'll watch it again, but hopefully soon. The Scamp, it seems people think Graham's going to pass on in New Year's Day special. Do you think his death will have some meaning, like he dies saving somebody, possibly Ryan, or he'll just die of cancer? Blimey, this is dark. Yeah, so it's been said before in I think a couple of live streams that Graham is a possible contender for being killed off. It doesn't look like he'll die at the end of the series now, like what some of us were predicting. But as you say, he could die in the New Year's Day special, which would be a horrible way to end the episode, but also a very emotional and dramatic way, so I would respect that if they went down that route. But in all honesty, I have no idea. If I had the choice, I'd rather him die saving someone than cancer, because this is a family show and it should try to be optimistic when it can. And I think simply dying of cancer is too dark an ending. So I wouldn't be happy to see that. Philip has made a good point. If Graham does die in the New Year's Day special, it explains why they wouldn't want the episode on Christmas Day. It would be a bit of a downer on Christmas. Yeah, and really that makes it more likely that Graham will die, to be honest. TM Martin. King James was well known for many things, including surviving the gunpowder plot. Being that it's November, wouldn't it have been a hoot to see Guy Fawkes do a cameo in this episode? Yep, it would have been, but then I think that would have been too obvious a reference. I think that would be a case of Guy Fawkes being shoehorned into the episode rather than being necessary to the plot. That's just my thoughts anyway. People are talking about A Christmas Carol, which is nice to see because I love that Christmas special. Oh, another controversial point from Dash Maniac. I also think I'm in the minority because Last Christmas is my favourite Christmas special. Well, you're not alone there. Well, it's not my favourite Christmas special, but it's up there. I do really like it, and I think, yeah, I forget how many people like and I forget the general consensus for how people rate that episode, but I do think there's more people that dislike it than like it. But no, I thought it was a really good Christmas special. The Scamp, do you prefer historicals where the Doctor meets famous people, like Rosa Parks, King James and Vincent van Gogh, etc., or historicals where they just meet non-famous people? That's quite an easy question to answer, actually. For me, I prefer the historicals where the Doctor meets famous historical people. I find it interesting to learn about these actual people from history, and it opens up even really interesting stories to tell. For instance, Vincent and the Doctor told this really good story about depression and how you can't always help someone. And then Rosa Parks told a very honest story about Rosa's struggle and how... Well, no, that was basically it, really. Rosa was just very true. The Doctor didn't influence the events at the end of the episode. It was all Rosa's doing. And that's a big reason why I cried at the end of the episode, because that was real. That actually happened. Rosa was escorted off the bus because she refused to give up her seat. Yeah, so I think you can tell really interesting stories by having famous historical figures. Alright, sorry if I skip your comments, guys. It's just because I'm very aware that I'm running out of time. Hopefully you don't mind. But like I said earlier, I do appreciate all your messages. Final chance to vote in the polls, by the way. I'll be going through them very soon. Oh, am I? Oh, I'm catching up. There we go. The Scamp, Dr. Blue, thank you very much for the time and effort put into making this video. Absolute pleasure. I do hope you guys enjoy watching these. And as long as you guys watch them, I'll keep making them. So if you do enjoy these, please give it a like. And obviously keep trying to watch when you can. It doesn't have to be live. You can watch this days or weeks or months afterwards. But yeah, it's just all about... what's the word I'm looking for? I can't find it. Basically, if I know people enjoy this, I know it's worth making. Whereas if it doesn't get many views or many likes, then it seems like people don't like this type of video, and then I won't do it again, which is fine. But obviously, if any of you guys do enjoy these live streams, just let me know. TM Martin, did this episode meet your 3 death minimum quota? I think not, but I kind of checked out towards the episode because I was tweeting about the episode. I didn't take note of how many people died, actually. You've got the Gran at the start. You've got the villains. And I think that's it. So, really, it didn't meet my 3 death quota. But that's not always a bad thing. And it's not a bad thing in this episode, I think, because I'm wishy-washy with this rule. I'm literally changing it as I go along. But I think I'm fine with an episode not having 3 deaths at least, as long as we have what I deem to be a very threatening villain. And I did feel like the villains this week were scary and threatening. So I didn't mind so much that they didn't kill anyone. Jack Parry, out of interest, what was your favourite 2-parter? Mine is The Stolen Earth and Journey's End. Mad to think that the episode was 10 years ago. God, it was, wasn't it? And I should point out that 2-parter is very good, and it is up there as being one of my favourite 2-parters. Whether or not it's my favourite, though, I don't know, because I do love a lot of the 2-parters, and you have put me on the spot here, trying to get to my favourite. I'm going to be cheeky with my answer, and just list off ones that come into my head, because at this moment in time, I am really struggling to determine a best one. So, I really like Journey's End and The Stolen Earth, as you mentioned. The Human Nature and the Family of Blood, I think, is a very good story as well. Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead is one of my favourite stories of all time. Just like Human Nature, actually. Any others? Oh, I feel like I'm missing obvious ones. I really like The Satan Pit and The Impossible Planet, but I think I prefer Human Nature, that 2-parter, and the Silence in the Library 2-parter. Yeah, have all them. All of them are ones that stand out in my mind. But I bet at the same time I've missed loads of two-parters that I really enjoy. Geo, am I just... Oh, is there a comment of yours I missed? Oh. That's interesting. So earlier, Geo said, did anyone else get a mess up on Amazon today? I did not watch The Witchhunters. It was a completely different episode. And then they say, or am I just missing a previous episode? Battle of something or other. It felt quite finale-ish. So it looks like you've seen the finale, the Series 11 finale. I want to ask you more about it, but also I don't, because there's a risk that you'll be spoiling the Series 11 finale if it's been leaked. So please don't answer that. I guess I'll have to do some digging to see if Amazon has messed up yet again. But God, wow. So on that note, I will hide the chat. And before wrapping up, I will quickly go through the poll again to see how the votes have changed. Oh, I think I saw another message from Geo there that hopefully wasn't spoiling anything. Only 20 odd minutes in before I got kicked, so no major spoilers for me, but no worries, I'll keep stun. Well, at the very least, I'm grateful that you're staying silent, so thank you for that. But that is so bad if you've seen some of the finale, because that's 2 weeks before everyone else is going to see it. So first of all, lucky you. Well done for catching that. But at the same time, that's so bad that that got leaked. But anyway, let's not dwell on that. So I will refresh the page. And we will see how the poll has changed. So the first poll question, how would you rate the Witchfinders? The winner, with 45% of the vote, is people liking the episode. In second place is people loving the episode, with 25% of the vote. In joint third place is people thinking the episode was okay or disliking it. But what is nice to see is no one hated the episode. So that's something. The second question, which Series 11 historical story is the best? The winner, with 57% of the vote, was Rosa. So I'm very happy to see that, because that's my favourite historical. In second place was the Witchfinders, with 26%. And then in third place, with 15% of the vote, it's Demons of the Punjab. Which non-Chibnall story is your favourite? Oh, the winner's changed now, I think. The winner is now Kablam, with 36% of the vote, just over a third. Very close behind is Rosa, with 31%. Then it's the Witchfinders, with 21%. And then in last place, it's Demons of the Punjab. And then finally, which episode 8 is your favourite? Still, overwhelmingly, 61% picked Father's Day. And the closest anything got to that was Mummy on the Orient Express, with 16% of the vote. Then it's, surprisingly, Let's Kill Hitler, with 11%. I'm shocked at that, to be honest, because I thought loads of people disliked that episode. And then in joint last place, percent each, it's Cold War and tonight's episode, Witchfinders. So I will very quickly check the chat again, just before saying my farewells. Jack Parry thought it was interesting that all my choices were Tennant two-parters. Yep, it's no coincidence there. Tennant's era was when I became a fan of the show, and it's also when I feel like we had the best stories, to be honest. Don't get me wrong, we've had plenty of great stories since then, but I do find the two-parters in particular, for me, stand out from Tennant's era. TM Martin, thank you, Dr. Blue, for your time and expertise, and really appreciate the live stream episode poll. Cheers. Thank you very much, TM Martin, and thank you very much for all your messages and sticking around. Jack Parry, please keep doing these live streams. They're great. Thank you very much. I certainly will, as long as you guys keep enjoying them and watching. So on that note, thank you very much, guys, for watching, especially to those of you that took part in the polls and the chat, or stuck around for most of this 1.5-hour long live stream. So yeah, that's it. That's the Witchfinders. See you next week for episode 9. It Takes You Away.